Hey everyone, welcome back to Rachel and Quilts, where we bring your creative ideas to life, one stitch at a time. I'm Rachel Ann, and today we're diving into part 2 of our T-Shirt and Memory Quilting series. It's all about preparing your t-shirts for the quilting process. Let's get those cherished memories ready to shine. First things first, let's talk about ironing. This step is crucial to ensure your t-shirts lay flat and smooth for your cutting and sewing. Set your iron to the appropriate setting for your t-shirt fabric and iron out any wrinkles. Take your time with this step. Smooth out the fabric gently to avoid stretching it out of shape. A flat, wrinkle-free t-shirt will make the next steps much easier. Once your t-shirts are nicely pressed, it's time to stabilize the fabric. T-shirt material is stretchy and can make it tricky to work with. Interfacing is our secret weapon. Interfacing is a lightweight fabric that you can iron onto the back of your t-shirt blocks to give them a bit more structure. Cut your interfacing about 2 inches larger than your t-shirt blocks. Place the rough side, the adhesive side, of the interfacing against the back of your t-shirt block. Use the iron to press the interfacing onto the fabric. You want to make sure that you are pressing and that you are not rubbing. Rubbing can cause it to slide. So press the interfacing to the back of your t-shirt by following the manufacturer's instructions. This will help keep your block stable and easy to sew. Now that we have our t-shirts stabilized, it's time to cut them into blocks. Grab your rotary cutter ruler and cutting mat. Measure and mark the size of the blocks based on your quilt layout. Remember, precision is key here. Start by cutting along the sides. Then cut along the shoulders and the sleeves to separate the front from the back. In this case, our t-shirt only has a design on one side, and so we can cut through both layers at the same time. If you have a print on both sides, you're going to want to separate your shirts as close to the edge as possible. Again, along the sides first, then the shoulders and the sleeves. So in my case, I need my block to be 16 inches wide by 18.5 inches tall. Actually, let's correct that. I need my block to be 16.5 inches wide, so I have my 1/4 inch seam allowance on both sides. My ruler here happens to be 18.5 inches, so I'm going to cut the ruler shape out, cutting through both layers of the shirt because I only have a design on one side. And then I'll take my block and I'll cut it down to the exact size that I need. My height, I need 18.5 inches, and this ruler again is an 18.5 inch square. So we're just going to cut around the entire block. Sometimes we need a little extra cut there. There you have the first block, but now we need to cut it down to the proper size. So I have the proper height. I went up as close to the neckline as I could so that the print is as high as it can be. Knowing that I need 16.5 inches on width, I'm going to take 1 inch off of each side because then my design will be pretty close to centered. So I make sure my top and bottom of my ruler are aligned properly, and then I cut off my extra inch. Oops, there we go. I'm using the 16.5 inch line on my ruler, aligning the tops and the bottom. And there you have it, the first block, completely stabilized with nice, crisp, clean corners. I just want to show you a really quick scenario. So this shirt, the printing is very high up to the neck, but I need a long block that's 18.5 inches long. So rather than leave the print off balanced, I'm going to take some of the fabric from the bottom and we're going to attach it up at the top. So to get started with that, when I'm cutting it out, I cut it larger than I need in both directions, width as well as height. That way I can square everything up once I've put in the extra 2 seams. So in this case, my measurements for the top, I have about 2 inches before the print starts. I don't know if you can see the little speckles of red there at the top, but there's 2 inches from the top of the fabric until where the printing starts. So what I found works best for me, rather than cut 2 inches below the print down here, I actually use my ruler. I have a 1/2 inch, 1.5 inches. This is about 2 inches from the print. So I'm going to slide it down so I have 2 1/4, because we're taking a 2 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then I just fold it up over the ruler. Since I have a really large ruler, I'm able to line everything up, making sure that my sides are all straight. So once I do that, I just pull the ruler out, and then I can put some clips or pins, or I've done it enough times that I just take it to the sewing machine and I do a 1/4 inch seam down here, and then I'll show you how I trim it and attach it to the top. Now that I have the seam stitched on the bottom portion that was attached, let's talk about which direction we want to press this. If I press this so that extra seam is towards the print side, it makes that center print look like it's slightly elevated. If I press the seam towards the outer edge this way, it's going to make it look like that print is inset. It's not a big difference, but it's a very subtle difference when you end up putting your quilt together. So I found in most cases, I like pressing the seam towards the print so that center part kind of looks elevated and just shines. So once I get this pressed, then we're going to trim this excess off and attach it to the top. Now that I have the seam pressed towards the print so that that center panel will look elevated when I'm finished, I'm ready to cut my bottom section to be able to move to the top. So what I want to do is I want to make sure I have equal distance above the shirt as I have below the seam. That way when I cut this off and attach it, we'll have a balanced amount on the top as well as on the bottom. So sometimes what I do is I actually leave this bottom a little bit longer, attach the top seam, and then I trim everything so that it's all squared up. So that's what I'm going to do in this case. Because I'm only going to need a 16.5 inch width, I'm not worried about my ruler coming to the edge because this is an 18.5 inch ruler. So I will still have excess if I get a little wobbly at the beginning and at the end of this cut. So now this strip that I cut off, this is kind of important. When you think about fabrics, there's kind of a nap. Think about velvet. You brush it one way, it leaves no marks. You brush it the other way, it leaves marks. So fabric also has a nap. So if you can keep the nap direction consistent when you're trimming and adding to the top, it'll make the look be very similar across the whole block. So I don't want to spin and flip this. When I cut it from here, I want to move it up directly so that nap is still going in the same direction. So then once I have it up in the top, we're going to turn it over and then we're going to stitch it. As you can see, I cut off and I don't have that stabilized, so I'm just going to add a little piece of stabilizer on there, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to stitch this seam, and I'll show you how that turns out. Now that I have the extensions added to the top as well as the bottom, the seams are pressed towards the print. Now we're ready to finish trimming this block. So this block needs to be 16.5 wide by 18.5 long, so we have our seam allowances. I have an 18.5 inch ruler here, so I'm just balancing the height based on these seams that I put in, which are balanced based on the print. So if you're balancing the seams, the print should end up being balanced as well. Then I like to trim all the way around. Even though this is wider of a ruler than what I need, it just makes the next part a little simpler because you have nice square edges. So our top and bottom are cut to the proper size. Now because this ruler is 2 inches larger than what we need, I can take an inch off of each side if my print is balanced. But what I want to check first is how many inches I have on each side and make sure that it truly is balanced. I have 5 1/4 over here and I have 4 1/2 over here. So I can't take an inch off each side as an easy math. I want to actually balance the print across the block. So we are going to take our time with this measurement and make sure everything comes out to the proper size. And there you have a beautifully balanced block. In the next video, we'll start cutting our sashing strips. We'll talk about how to get the right amount of cuts and the proper way to cut it. You won't want to miss it, so be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Thanks for watching, and happy quilting. See you in the next video.